5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It's time to count down reality TV's most talked about moments with Amanda Bella. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Bella Talks TV. Amanda Bella here, recording from Florida this week. I mean, it's cold everywhere in the nation right now, but it is really weird to be in Florida and have it be, I mean, we're not in the area where it's snowing. We're in Fort Lauderdale, so at least we're on that part of the map when you're looking at it and it's like blue, 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 and then there's that little dot of red in the corner. I mean, we're still in the 70s. I really cannot complain. It's like 71 today, but just it's gloomy outside. It's a perfect day to be inside recording with you guys. And I'm preparing to leave for Las Vegas this weekend. So if you know me, I'm always on the move and recording from different areas. So I actually have a fun episode I will be recording on Monday with our friend of the pod, Rhea Hensler. So just quick little plug to her, coffee.meets.vodka on Instagram. Go follow her podcast also. Love my girl Rhea. Okay, yes, I'll be recording with her next week from Vegas. And then after that, when we come back to Florida, I will be here for the rest of February before we head back to New York. And I am so excited. I mean, there are so many things going on in New York that I've been missing it's like a curse and a blessing to be able to snowbird and be down here in Florida, because there are one specific event that's going on is there's an LA wildfire relief benefit concert happening where DJ Kyle Cook, which we know since DJ James Kennedy has been canceled, that he's really rising to be the supreme DJ of the Bravo celebrities. So Kyle Cook is DJing and many other Bravo celebrities will be there. And I would have been front and center at that event. So I'm super bummed to be missing that. But if you're in the New York area, make sure you get your ticket and go and support for LA fire relief. I mean, I cannot believe that it's been a full week of these fires and a new one in Southern LA had just broken out yesterday. So as always, my heart goes out to everybody in LA, everybody on the West Coast, and everybody dealing with this. Ryan Bailey, so bad it's good. What up, baddie? Part of the baddie crew over there. And he was, talking about how at least during COVID, everybody was kind of in it together, in the trenches together. But when it comes to this thing in LA, like if you're not there, you're really not feeling and experiencing how difficult it is, all of the pain and, just inconvenience. And I mean, for lack of a better word, I mean, it's just very dark what's going on over there. And my heart just really goes out to them because there's so little you really can do. And when it comes to personal belongings and family heirlooms and the Spencer Pratt of it all, it's just been really hard to watch and follow. But I haven't forgotten about you guys. And I'm really thinking about everybody out there. And if you are a Bella and you're out there and you're listening and you are in LA, please send me a message so that I can help you. Like, I would love to be directly donating and helping people that I know, my supporters, and giving the support back. So just wanted to start with that at the top of the show. We're going to be getting into all of it. We are back to our true return to form Bella Talks TV countdown this week. I got my top 5. I got my OMG and my LOL. And, we're going to play around with some new segments. I'm always liking to test out some new things that you guys might like to hear about. And we're just going to get right into it this week. So let's kick it off with our OMG and LOL of the week. So there's been so much going on in the Bravo world. If you guys didn't check out my episode last week, I was in Costa Rica and I didn't really do my top 5. I kind of just did like a little roundup of all the rumors that were going on in reality TV. So some of these things are kind of like lingering from last week a little bit that I didn't really get to touch on. So let's start with my OMG of the week, because this is actually a 3-fer instead of a 2-fer. We got 3 different things I want to just kind of rapid fire discuss in this, because there were a lot of breakups this week. We have a lot of conscious uncoupling going on. So let's get into the breakups, because I was shocked by all 3 of these. I didn't see, well, one of them I guess we kind of saw coming, but I was still shocked it happened. But the other 2, no. I thought that these were going to be people that were going to pretty much be together forever. So the first one that hit our reality TV wave was the Matt James and Rachel Kirkconnell of The Bachelor fame breakup. So from what I understand, I mean, I do not follow either of them on social media. I was not like the biggest Matt James fan. He was the first Black Bachelor, and I mean, we can't take that away from him. That is iconic, historic. This man, but he was Tyler Cameron's bestie, and like everybody loved Tyler and still continues to. I mean, this man I mean, random deep cut, but are you all aware that when he was dating Gigi Hadid, he was actually, that was when Yolanda's mom, yes, the mom that we saw many times on RHOBH, when she passed away, rest in peace, he actually went to the funeral. Like, he attended the funeral of Yolanda's mother. Like, these are the things that keep me going every day. All these roads leading back to Bravo and just all these little synchronicities. So I just thought that was wild. I don't think I had realized that before. And then a lot of people are talking about Tyler Cameron again throughout this Matt James breakup. So Matt and Rachel were, he was the first Black Bachelor. This ended up being the season that Chris Harrison was fired as the host because basically Rachel, I don't really have too many opinions about her as a person. I didn't love her on the show, but I don't dislike her and think that she, is problematic in any way, except for the fact that she did attend a Southern antebellum party that was thrown by her sorority. And there's a little bit of gray area there. Like, since we don't know the facts, or I guess I could go back and watch the interviews from 2020 to see exactly what she said about this. But she pretty much, I think, what are you going to do? If you're part of a sorority and that is the theme of the ball or whatever, she would have had to have the gumption, the chutzpah, whatever, that fire inside of her to basically convince everybody else. And I don't think she really had the knowledge or the maturity at the time. I mean, when you're a freshman in college, you're 18, 19 at best. So the frontal lobe was not fully formed, and I'm able to forgive her for maybe not totally understanding what the theme meant and the history of what the antebellum parties were. And I think that they thought cute, we get to wear these big cute dresses with the little umbrellas and be these little Southern belles. I think it was more of an aesthetic than it was what they were trying to push, that it was purposely chosen to be a racist thing and celebrating racism and slavery. I just don't think that was the case. So I kind of was able to give her a little pass on that. But unfortunately, Chris Harrison did defend her till the death. And maybe he shouldn't have rode so hard because he ended up losing his 20-year job on there, or 20-season job on there. And was replaced with Jesse Palmer, who is still the host now. And I think he does a great job. I don't think, I think it's great to usher in a new era. So I don't really miss Chris Harrison that much. And I don't think he was such a fabric of the show. I mean, his thing was always just saying the most dramatic season ever. Jesse has been really great at carrying that torch. He still gets us to believe that every season's the most dramatic. Every bachelor is the best guy ever. Every bachelorette is the most single beautiful person in the world. Every guy should be after them. He's very convincing. And so he's able to deliver those moments to us still too. But I just did not see this breakup coming. Matt and Rachel do end up getting engaged in the end. Matt, being the first Black Bachelor, stands by his woman's side, and they continue to date for 4 years. I mean, I'm not sure if they were technically engaged this whole time. No, actually, I think I remember how it went down now is that they did not get engaged in the end, but they still remained dating and decided to still be together after the show ended, which I think was a good move. I think, I don't think anybody should be getting engaged at the end of The Bachelor, because getting engaged after knowing somebody for 6 weeks is one thing. I think that if you met somebody out in the wild and you are love at first sight, inseparable, every minute of every day, the timing is right, you're at the right age, you are mature enough to be okay, maybe you're a little later in life, whatever. I think that that's okay to get engaged after 6 weeks. I think crazier things have happened, right? We've seen marriages last for 50 years or beyond that, or people that met and got engaged very quickly, or arranged marriages, stuff like that. It can happen. It can happen. But I just think specifically, in this case, it's just a no, especially because they're not together, inseparable, spending every day. They only get to spend one night together in the fantasy suites. They're only together. They only sleep together, even just sleeping, sleeping, not having sex. It's just a lot to handle. The entire Bachelor thing is very toxic. But them announcing their breakup is so controversial because they were together abroad in London/China, it seems. And it shows that a lot of their social media and a lot of their brand partnerships, they were an influencer couple. They didn't really work. I mean, as far as I know, neither of them had jobs. So it's very clear that they were riding off of their money from The Bachelor, their influencer partnerships, and just kind of traveling and living that type of lifestyle. Like, who knows if they're like racking up credit card debt or like whatever, however they're really able to maintain their lifestyle. But their whole thing was food. They were foodie influencers, and they were in London, and they were taking bites of pizza together. And all of a sudden, 3 hours later, like on SpongeBob, it's like, dee, 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 3 hours later, they were broken up. Matt releases this prayer saying like, please Lord, protect me and Rachel, like help us get through this tough time as we navigate our breakup. And everybody, including Rachel's sister, has been in the comments being like, she was blindsided. There's no way she saw this coming. She totally thought they were going to be engaged. Matt took it upon himself. I mean, I don't know, after like an argument, maybe they had been having some tumultuous times. Maybe they had been contemplating breaking up for a while, and there was something that happened that was the straw that broke the camel's back. I mean, we don't really have answers yet. Seems like they're really smart about PR, and they're both not commenting, and they're not making the situation worse right now. They're taking some time to maybe figure out what they're going to do. But also, they were spotted after the breakup together in an airport, and seemingly not like lovey-dovey, but they didn't look broken up. So is this a PR stunt? Are they like, hey, no one's talking about us, like we should mix it up? Like, are they trying to distract from other things? Are they trying to like get themselves back in like the news cycle? Are they trying to get their engagement up? Because maybe, as we know, I mean, this is my tinfoil hat going on. A lot of these relationships or a lot of these influencer partnerships that people have like are on views and engagement. Like, if no one's really caring about Matt and Rachel anymore, like how are they going to be able to fund their abroad foodie lifestyle? So part of me is a little skeptical and like has a little eyebrow raised about this, but I'm going to wait to hear their official statements because we don't really know yet what has happened. Thought that was crazy. So moving on to another breakup in my OMG, I can't believe that this is happening breakup. Ashley and Tyler of Love is Blind. Now, if you guys listened to my wrap up from 2025, my 2024 most talked about moments of reality TV, I mean, this was a huge moment. This was one of my most talked about moments of the year last year, was the fact that Ashley was standing by her man at the reunion, even though Tyler had fathered all of these children that he wasn't taking care of, that he wasn't claiming, and that she didn't know about. She was convinced that this is part of the plan. She was supposed to be with him. She's there to show this man like love and compassion. And again, if I haven't ever told you guys before, if you're new to the pod, I studied comparative religion, and I just have that's what my bachelor's degree is in, psychology and comparative religion. And I just have a very like weird lens, a very specific lens on religion and how people use it in their daily life and the different religions and the religions of the world. And the psychology part of how it affects you. And there is definitely something, and we'll be talking about this as a little bit of a theme through some of the other stories in our episodes tonight, in our part of our pod here today. But it's very clear to me that, women that are in, I don't want to speak and I don't want to generalize, but there is a tendency for Christian women to be more forgiving of their partners' infidelities, indiscretions, etc., because we have been taught as Christians. I mean, I was raised Catholic, and I'm aware of Christianity. I'm very freaking aware of it. And there's something about the idea that we have to forgive, right? Like this forgiveness, basically putting your own self-respect, for honestly lack of a better way to put it, aside for the greater of your Christian beliefs. Like, I know this man cheated on me. I know this man has lied to me. I know, et cetera, but God, I'm going to leave that up to God. I'm going to let him be the one to judge and decide whether or not what he's done is wrong. And I'm going to stand by him and support him. This is not something that I personally subscribe to, but I understand how people that have been raised in these type of families, situations, religions, cults, that they really, believe this. And you can't, when somebody believes something true to their core, to their soul, like there's really no changing it. So when Ashley was always talking about him being a God-fearing man, and because he's religious and because he's a Christian, it's all going to be okay. It's okay that he has not claimed his children. It's okay that he's not paying child support. It's okay that he's getting married and trying to bring more children into the world, all in the name of God. And this has just been really crazy to me that all of a sudden we get a message from little Miss Ashley this week that her and Tyler are now separated and will be filing for divorce. It took her about a year, I think, to come to this conclusion. From the end of the time of filming, we went through the whole reunion, which was only about a month ago, where she was still standing by her man. So it's just crazy. It kind of feels like it kind of came out of nowhere, but maybe the social media got to her, guys. Like maybe the comments, like we did it. Like maybe as a society, we were able to lift the veil and be like, girl, like Christian or not, this is not how you treat your partner. Christian or not, this is not how you treat your family and your children. So I have to say that was just like a big win for all of us this week, all of us reality TV people that were paying attention to Love is Blind and we're paying attention to the Ashley and Tyler roller coaster. And Ashley has gone on statement saying this, but I don't believe we have heard anything from Tyler yet. I did see like the funniest meme that had me laughing. It almost was my LOL of the week. That was like one of the Facebook flags that was like marked safe from Tyler, the Procreator today. So, if you know Tyler, the creator, I thought that was like so funny that somebody did a play on words like that. Like Tyler is the Procreator. Like what was his deal? Why was he already having 3 children randomly that he had no intention of ever taking care of, trying to convince Ashley to have more children with him? And why did he want this like basketball team of kids? Like, I think that is so weird when people say that. I just don't get it. So that was shocking to me. I cannot believe they broke up. Like, truly, I don't know. I still have a feeling they're going to like get back together. It just seems so unreal to me. But getting to my third breakup of my OMGs, this one we did see coming, but I was still skeptical that it would actually happen. And we did get an official statement from Allie Luber that she has decided to end the relationship with James, officially move all of her stuff out of that Burbank under the airport house, and she's taking the cats and she's running. So I just have to say, again, trigger warning, of course. If you don't want to hear anything about this story or domestic violence, again, please skip ahead. There are timestamps in the description. But as a survivor of domestic violence, as somebody who has gone through that exact scenario of having to officially move my stuff out of a house that was shared, of a shared lease, of a space that was both of ours equally, I really was feeling for Allie, and I know exactly how she's feeling in this moment. It is like most conflicting feeling. It's like you're proud of yourself for standing up for yourself, for having the self-respect, for having that moment of like pride that you had been really, for years and years, she's been with this person trying to convince herself, trying to convince others that it's not what it looks like and it's not what it seems. And, not everybody has all the facts. And it's like constantly defending the relationship and defending your choices and defending your mental state, because people pretty much will be like, wow, this girl must be crazy. This girl must be blind. Like, what's wrong with her? Why isn't she leaving? Why is she so weak? Does she not love herself? The stigma goes on and on and on. And I'm just so proud of her, like, for pushing through all of that personal narrative, for pushing through all of those voices in her head that were telling her, what are people going to think? How am I going to start over? What am I going to do? Now, I do have to say, like, it doesn't really matter or not, but there is just a little voice inside my head that is like, if Vanderpump Rules did continue, would this have happened? Because it's very clear to me that Allie was seeking being on television and wanting to be a reality TV star in her own right, get her music career starting, support her astrology business. She had a platform. She had a big platform that she needed to be able to pursue these creative arts of hers and, be able to live off of that, because other people have to get a job. And I think a lot of people, times too, financially, if they're feeling restricted by the relationship and they don't have the money per se to move out. Like, I personally had probably like $60 in my bank account when I moved out of that house. When I put all my money into putting the security deposit into a new apartment that I was able to move into. And I had no furniture. I had to sleep on a rug with a blanket and a pillow for like the first month that I moved out, until I could save enough money and a couple of paychecks to get a new bed and get a couch and rebuild my home, rebuild my life. But throughout that process, I really was able to learn to love myself again, or maybe for the first time. And I just am excited for Allie. As sad as I am, I'm really excited for her to go through that process of knowing what it's like to choose yourself, knowing what it's like to not put materialistic things like fame or TV shows or a house that is shared, or, even down to like pets. People will stay because they don't want to leave their pet, which I understand that's a little bit more than like a material item. but it's like an intangible, it's a tangible thing, but it's a feeling more, than like, will the animal die without you? No, it's just like that feeling of connection to like some of these things that keep you from leaving. And I'm just so proud of her. I just have to give my snaps and give my happiness for Allie, because whether or not the show would have came back, whether or not this ever would have happened because of that, what is important is what happened in reality, which is the show didn't get re-signed. James had fallen off the wagon and began drinking again, specifically at Kathy Hilton's Christmas party the night of the incident. Now, she has gone on statement to say that what was reported is not true, that she did not actually be the victim of physical assault, like was stated in the police report, that she had been thrown to the ground. I mean, I don't know for sure. I do know that sometimes things, paperwork, police, not everything is Bible. In the words of the Kardashians, like not everything is the pure truth. Not everything is black and white. And sometimes details can get misconstrued or misunderstood in filing these reports. So I think the report filing did originally state that was what Allie said, that it said victim stated boyfriend threw her to the ground. Allie's now denying that. I personally think that she's still trying to protect him. I think that there's something in her mind where she's like, okay, I'm going to leave. I'm going to do this for myself, but I still don't want James's life to be ruined over this, which is a very nice way of thinking. But fuck him. Like, why are we still trying to make sure he's going to be able to DJ or whatever? I think that a manipulation tactic that we had seen from James that he used on Lisa Vanderpump, that he used on Kristen Doty, and that he used on Raquel Rachel was potentially again, trigger warning, again, this is very like dark subject matter, but a lot of the times these men, or I don't want to say these men, women also, if you have been paying attention to me in my stories, I'm talking about how women can also be gaslighters, abusers, narcissists. It's not a man problem. In this particular case, we're talking about a man. But there's a tendency or there's a possibility of people sometimes using suicide and suicide attempts to get the other partner to not leave, to not expose details, etc. And there's just a gut feeling that I think James has a way of saying, maybe not using the verbiage exactly, but alluding to the fact that he may harm himself if these things come out, or if his life is over, or etc. And I think that's a manipulation tactic. And I'm just praying that we never see James do anything to hurt himself. I hope that he just uses this as a huge learning lesson, because this is obviously a cycle for him. And hopefully this is what's going to be what truly gets him to change. But I'm just not sure the sentiment, once a cheater, always a cheater, once an abuser, always an abuser. People can change, but it's just not very often. And the only way I'm hoping that, we can hopefully get through some of this with James would be to not see him get into another relationship where he's just repeating the cycle again, not just finding another 21-year-old, 22-year-old that he can manipulate and from Hollywood that wants to stand behind him in the DJ booth. I mean, if we see this behavior again from him, I'm going to have to just probably bow out and never discuss him again, because at that point it's like, what is the point? But I'm sending you vibes, my James, my man, that you are going to recover from this. You're going to really learn, get serious help. I mean, I know you've been posting on I always talk to him like he's listening, but he's been posting on his Instagram, his sobriety chips, him going to meetings, him doing meditations. I mean, on the surface, he seems to be doing the work. But I also think that when you're doing it on social media, you're obviously doing it to show people and you have like a motive. So do the work maybe behind closed doors and come back in a year and tell us how you've changed. So yes, those are my OMGs of the week. There were quite a few, and I had a lot to say at the top of the hour about that. Let's move right over into my LOL. We'll just keep them firing out here. My LOL of the week, I have been convincing all of my followers. I hope that you have also been taking my advice and getting through what was a very slow start to the season of Married at First Sight, but is quickly heating up in the second half. We got our mid-season trailer. We know that we are basically like, so the show is shot over 8 weeks. So we're right at the 4-week mark. We are truly right in the middle. They just had their 1-month anniversary, and we are moving now past the 1-month anniversary into the second half, leading up to decision day, which is the day that the couples will sit down and decide to get divorced or to stay together. If you've never watched the show, I'm very excited for you guys to see your first decision day, because almost every single time you think you have it pegged, and the couples you're like, there's no way they're staying together, give it another shot. And the people that you're like, okay, they've got to be staying together, sometimes get divorced. And, every once in a while, there's like one that we kind of see coming. But the editors are really good at keeping us on the edge of what's going to happen. And right now, like Camille and Thomas, they are kind of the front runners. They seem like the couple most likely to stay together after decision day. But I do not have my hopes up about them, because I do still think that this is a true experiment. And I think Camille is definitely kind of thinking to herself, like, is this going to be enough for me? She seems to really be, putting her stamp on, I'm going to forget Thomas. Poor little Thomas. Oh my God, he's not the most exciting man in the world, but some of the women that have also been on the show in previous seasons weren't the most exciting people either. And, they ended up being some of the couples that really lasted the longest. So putting some faith in Camille and Thomas, but we're really not here to talk about them. I just wanted to talk about kind of decision day and what's kind of going to be coming up for us. But I'm here to talk about David. And David only, because this man had me laughing out loud this episode. He had me uncomfortably fidgeting in my seat. He had me rolling my eyes. And in the very last shot of last episode, he himself is cringing. Like, he's all kind of wrapped up in his body language. His legs are crossed, his hands in his head. He's playing with his hair. Like, you can tell this man is physically uncomfortable, as well as emotionally, spiritually, mentally uncomfortable with the fact that he has gotten himself into quite the conundrum. So we have been teasing that there's going to be a wife swap for the first time. Now, this is something in Married at First Sight that has never happened. Never has there been a situation on all 18 seasons of this show. Well, I think there were 17 previously, and this is 18. But of this show, where one of the wives and one of the husbands end up being attracted to someone else's wife and husband. Even post-decision day, this has never happened in the history of the show. So this is definitely something new and exciting that I've been anxiously awaiting to play out on the show. But we're going to be starting to see the unraveling of it, because I've been dying to find out. Like, of course, there's been tons of speculation from the beginning that it is indeed David and Madison. And I have done so good at not seeing any spoilers. I know they're out there. I know there are Reddits. I know that there are, grid posts that if you swipe to the right a couple, you will find out what happens, because of course, these shows are not being shot live. Like, everything's been done already. So producers, friends of the family, people that know them, people that have seen them out in public, like, stuff ends up coming out, just kind of like The Bachelor. Like, you can always find out who's going to win, but you have to actively try not to, you have to avoid spoilers. Kind of like how I've been avoiding trailer spoilers. Like, it's my freaking job. But we'll get into that later too. So what happens on this most recent episode is, like, we finally are starting to get some exposure into what's going on behind the scenes, which is the fact that we know Michelle and David are having a really rough go. Like, David seems like a really sweet guy, a family man. He's getting a lot of flack for the fact that he lives in, like, the basement of his family's home instead of having his own place. And he kind of goes on to describe, like, hey, my family and I had a very popular bar that closed during COVID. We went through some financial times. I believe his family also was struggling, which is why he moved back in to help them. They kind of explain a lot of this on the show, but there are some holes in David's story also, because even though I've been able to avoid the spoilers of what actually happens with the wife swap, I had to do some digging on David, because there were just way too many questions. Like, what is his actual job? I was curious, like, what bar was this? Because I lived in Chicago for 10 years. I'm like, did I ever go to this bar that he worked at or owned? Like, I had to do a little bit of digging, at least about David, just to find out. And what I found was not good. So put it that way. I went from being like, what's wrong with David, to me kind of being like, okay, I'm actually starting to see Michelle's point a little bit, which I never thought, and does not excuse the fact that she is like a frigid bitch. But she's being really, just not eloquent with her words, as far as her trying to articulate why David is not a good fit for her and why she's not attracted to him. She's having a tough go with it. But we finally get into this week. And, even though there have been a couple of teases, the first tease was that when they were on the honeymoon, David and Madison go to work out together. Actually, I don't know if they were doing it together or if they just both went to go work out and happened to both be in the gym together. But they kind of say that they, had a good conversation, and seems like I think that's when the connection started. Because obviously the couples don't meet each other until they go on the honeymoon. They all have their own respective weddings. They don't meet each other then. And then all the couples go to Mexico in this case, and David and Madison meet for the first time. So I don't know if she got off the plane or was like, who is that? Whose hubby is that? Like, I don't know if she was into him from the beginning or if that conversation in the gym started to spark like an emotional connection between them. But definitely that was like the root of something happening there, the blooming of it. And then they start to show, the editors are starting to show little pieces of like how Madison lights up when David comes into the room, or the way she hugs him when we've never even seen her hug her own husband, who is Alan. Poor Alan. It's just all pour one out for Alan right now. He is definitely having a rough time of this because nobody feels bad for Michelle. Michelle is insane. But Alan, he's a good guy. Cheesy, but he's a good guy. And he reminds me of a lot of guys I knew in Chicago. Like awkward, kind of socially awkward, not super hot, but like not ugly. That's just kind of like how guys are there. They're all average. Sorry. And he's just like an average bear, which is fine. Not everybody has to be like a supermodel. But something happens now where it's like the veil again is being lifted. The lid is popping off of this, where it's like, okay, there were all these speculations and kind of these little like hints that something was going on. But now we got proof. We got the receipts. And we've started to put together the timeline. And we got the screenshots too. Like, this is really a moment. But the episode opens with Michelle getting into David's car, and they always have the cameras in the car of the couples. There's not production there, but they have the little video cams in the car. And Michelle's very smart. She knows that anything that she says to David needs to be on camera because, I think that she says something we didn't see in the beginning of like, okay, well, I don't know if everything's adding up with this guy. And she was smart to be like, okay, I'm not going to really have conversations with this guy off of camera or hang out with him that much off of camera because I need to be able to like have other people see what I'm experiencing. And, I'm starting to really understand a little bit of some of the moves that she made that I was probably previously not really understanding that much. And she gets in the car with David and she decides to bring up this text that she received around 9:45, which, unless it's a Sunday, it had to have been like a Sunday fun day because I don't want to say maybe a happy hour situation. It's just not a 2 a.m. booty call that you would normally get. It was like a 9:30 p.m. text. And the text reads, "You are so damn fine. I want to eat you up." That's a great text to receive. What girl doesn't want to hear that they're fine and that they want to be eaten up? Hello, we all, I guess I can't speak for us all, but I think we all like compliments. We all like to be, hearing these things. But Michelle knows upon receiving this message from David, like, there's no way that he meant to send me this because first of all, I hate him and he knows that. Second of all, we have never spoken to each other like that. We've never even like hinted that I like feel that way. Like, it just really came out of the blue. And so woman's intuition, right? She just has that gut feeling like, they're even drunk or not, like, I don't really think that this guy's like even like attracted to me. Even if he was trying to put it out there that maybe he is trying to take our marriage, and remember they are married legally, that maybe he is trying to officially make a move. Maybe the experts had met with him and been like, hey, like, what do you have to lose? They have been telling Alan that a lot with Madison. He's been having the same problem with Madison. Like, she won't be physically effective. Same with Carla and Juan. Like, this season, there's like not a lot of physicality going on, where if you guys watched Denver last year, like all the couples were fucking and none of them stayed together. Maybe they were all learning from last season because, of course, if you're getting cast on this show, what are you going to do? You're going to go watch the last season. Got to go catch up on the last season, see what I'm getting myself into. And I think that they all probably watched that and were like, shit, like, we need to make sure we learn from last season's mistakes. And like, maybe all of us shouldn't just like jump into physical relationships because all of the women were very hurt last season that they were all slept with, but that the men didn't want to stay married to them. So there was just a lot in the lore of Married at First Sight. But Michelle reads this text to David and she's like, hey, she's in camera in the car. They're going to actually hang out with Michelle's family. It's like family day. And they're going to meet Michelle's family. And Michelle brings this text up to David. And you can just see right away, the gears are turning. The wheels are turning. And David's thinking, okay, What he should have done, and maybe he did, but we didn't see it because, of course, the show's only an hour. They have to edit it. But maybe he did take a beat and like come up with this, but it seems like kind of on the fly. Like real quick, he's like, yeah, that was not meant to be sent to you. And she's like, okay. And it's like, duh, I think she knew that. But then the question that we beg of next is, well, then who was it sent for? Like, okay, if you're not texting me, your wife, that I'm so damn fine and you want to eat me up, who were you texting that to? So, her wheels are turning. He's sitting there as she's contemplating, like, okay, how am I, he's probably just like on the fly. And she's like, okay, well then, of course she asks, okay, well, who was it for then? And this is a very pivotal moment. David, my guy, like I've been rooting for you. But you had the perfect opportunity here. You were private in your car. Yes, there's a camera there, but they may have never showed the footage. You don't know. This was your chance to say, shit, Michelle, like, I am sorry. I'm sorry that text was not meant for you. I'm sorry that you have to find out this way. Obviously, that wasn't my intention. But I have been communicating with other women while we've been married because it's clear that you don't want to stay with me. I'm jumping the gun a little bit on decision day. I know I'm supposed to ride out this experiment, but it's very, very fucking obvious that they're not going to stay married. They hate each other. So while they're contractually obligated and they're not going to get paid, for the rest of their season if they quit, which we've had people quit, we've had people leave the show before, but it's very clear that they are going to, not stay together. He could have just said all of that and been like, girl, I gotta get some love and attention, or I'm getting a head start on basically moving on with my life. And I'm keeping in touch with some of the Tinder hotties I used to bang because they might be coming back around again now that I'm going to be single again. He had such an opportunity here. But, and this is a very big but, because this is, I think, the only reason I can get behind it. My personal opinion is that text was for Madison. It wasn't for a random Tinder hottie or an ex of his or a coworker or whatever. It really was for Madison. And because of that reason, he couldn't really come up with it that fast. Like, he just knew he could not tell her that it was for another girl in that moment that wasn't her, because he hadn't came up with like the idea that it could be a Tinder girl, or he hadn't really, again, this all happened within like 5 seconds of her getting in the car and like catching him off guard. So I think that because it was for Madison, he really spiraled, because he's thinking, oh my God, I'm cheating with one of the other wives. This is going to affect Alan. This is going to affect Madison. I haven't been able to tell Madison yet that Michelle knows. He kind of like just came up with a different lie, which is insane. And I don't know where he got going to this. He decides to say, oh, I meant to text my cousin that. Now, we can't even make the jokes about the South anymore. Like, I think the South has actually even evolved to the point where we aren't kissing our cousins anymore, you guys. Like, it's just not happening like that in 2025. So he tells her, yes, it was my cousin Denise, who Michelle knows, who she's met. And I think that he thinks in that moment, like, okay, if I just tell her this, maybe she won't really understand. Maybe she'll just be so weirded out. Maybe it just slipped out of his mouth because Denise, he knows he texts Denise every day, and he could say like, oh, I'm texting Denise every day, all day. Like maybe he just thought like, okay, who's the woman that I like text the most? My cousin Denise, which I believe they're like besties. But the fact that he says, okay, it was my cousin. Well, then we have to, it's like ping pong, tick, 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 going back and forth. Okay, then the camera goes back to Michelle. Okay, well, why would you text your cousin that she's so damn fine and you want to eat her up? This is getting weird. And his response was, well, because she texted me a plate of food. And then back ping pong back to Michelle. Okay. Interesting. I've never heard anybody use verbiage like that with their cousin or with food. No. Yes. If somebody sent me a picture of Pequod's Pizza in Chicago, shout out the best pizza in the freaking world, I would say, damn, that looks so good. I want to eat it up. But I would not say, damn, you look so good. I want to eat you up. It was the you and the it for Michelle that she was like, no, 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 no. Ping pong back to David. David says, we're Puerto Rican. We're very passionate about food. We speak to food like it's our amour. Back to Michelle. Michelle's stumped at this point. Like, she knows that David is lying, that he's got a story, and that he's going to stick to it, because now they've ping ponged back and forth a few times and she's really not getting anywhere with him. It's escalating. He is driving down the freaking freeway, down the Dan Ryan. So she's like, okay, she tells producers, in her confessional, like, I decided at that moment to put a pin in it. We're going to visit my family. I'm not going to bring this up with my family. This is insane. And we're just going to have to discuss this later. So they put a pin in it. And then they do the rest of the episode, and they leave the second half of this for the very last scene of the show, where this episode again was very family oriented. And there are certain things that every season they do, right? Like, these shows have a formula. They do going to visit the family. They do take me to a spot in your childhood that means a lot to you, and we can, whatever. Then they do these writing a letter to my inner child episodes. And that's what episode this was. So everybody was talking a lot about their past, growing up as a child. And, it was a very sad and heavy episode. We're not here to talk about Juan today, but I was really, really touched by Juan's story and being from an immigrant family and everything that's going on with the dumpster fire of America right now, with birthright citizenship and all of the deportations. And I just thought Juan's story was extremely impactful in that regard. But back to David and Michelle. So in the last scene, David and Michelle are filming, and they're in their apartment, their shared apartment, which they have not been living at. I actually think David might have been living there, but actually not, because I think, from what I understand, David actually works at the airport, and the family home that he lives in is closer to the airport, closer to his work. So he might still be living back at home and just working, and not even have anything to do with that apartment downtown in the South Loop that's there. But they're in the shared apartment, and David's got his little note. He's got a little notebook ready, and he sits down on the couch, and he's like, I'm here to read my inner child letter to Michelle. And Michelle sits down and she's like, we have other plans today, David. We're gonna circle back to that little text you sent me the other day, because we're back on camera now. Mind you, we haven't talked for probably 4 days in between, where David probably thought he got away with this, right? Like, he probably was thinking okay, I gave Michelle the excuse in the car. She hasn't brought it up to me again. And I got away with it. I did it. We did it. We lied, and she believed it. And she's like, no, I just wanted to get you back on camera again, so you can't lie. Or if you do lie, we got it on film. And she sits down with him, and she's like, I can't really read these childhood letters today, because I need to discuss that text with you again. It's really been on my mind and really bothering me. And she's like, I'm really hoping maybe you can help ease my mind by showing me some receipts. Do you have the photo that your cousin Denise sent you of the delicious food? Can I see it? And David takes his phone out. And I mean, this is where it is if you were an interrogation, detective, and you had him, it's crumbling. It's all falling apart. The confession is right around the corner. There's no way that he can keep this up. He's shaking. He's shifty. I mean, I always heard the thing that when people are lying, they look down to the left. It's no, I'm not. And he's looking down to the left a lot. He takes out his cracked iPhone 8 or something, which it's oh my God, again, not to be an iPhone snob, but David, what are we doing? It's just not adding any attractiveness points when you got the old cracked iPhone 2 that you're sexting on. So he gets the phone out, and he pretends to be looking for the photo. And he's like, no, Michelle, I think this is ridiculous. You're asking for this, but whatever, let me show you it. And he's like, oh, it looks like I already deleted it. I don't have it. And of course, Michelle is gloating. She is like, how convenient. And he's like, yeah, Michelle, it is convenient. And now he's getting defensive. And she's like, oh, you're getting a little heated over there. And she is loving this, because up until this moment, Michelle has been the villain. Now all of this is going to be justified. It's her get out of jail free card. She sees the light at the end of the tunnel. There's a big rainbow with a pot of gold at the end for her. That is Michelle's not going to be this villain that she thinks she's going to be, because people are going to now feel bad for her, which is great for her. Yes, great. And I actually do feel bad for her. This is not the way he should have done this. But Michelle tells him that, no, you're lying. There's just no way I believe this. What was the photo of? Can you describe it? And David, again, on the fly, this man, 10 out of 10 for creativity, decides to say, I don't know, Michelle. I don't remember. I'm not like investigating the photo. I wasn't like paying attention. She's like, can you remember anything about the photo? What kind of food it was? What color the plate was? Anything. And now she's giving him leads, right? Like she's kind of like guiding him along in the line. He's like, oh, hey, yes, the plate was white and it had, I think, dumplings on it. Is that what those are called? Now the man's acting like he doesn't know what a dumpling is. He's never seen a dumpling before. And she's like, okay, interesting. And then he's like, yeah, I've never been to Chinatown before, which is, I don't find that hard to believe because if this man lives in like Rosemont up by the airport, Chinatown is the complete opposite part of town. So, and he's Puerto Rican. He probably is eating a lot of Puerto Rican food and not maybe eating so much stuff from Chinatown because we know he never had sushi before. Michelle introduced him to sushi. So actually that little part was believable. I do believe maybe he's never been to Chinatown. But what we cannot deny is that in this moment, it's just gone off the rails. David is physically shaking. Michelle has to get up and walk away because I think at this point she is like, oh my God, he's sticking to his story. He's never going to like end it. I'm never going to get anywhere with him. I'm going to just like walk away. So that is how the episode ended. But like, I haven't been able to stop thinking about that. Him saying the dumplings specifically, lol. Like, I cannot believe David went there. So I'm on the edge of my seat to see how the rest of this plays out. Looks like next episode, it's going to be a lot of Michelle telling everybody else about what she found, but we didn't see David actually in any of the clips for next episode and how he's combating this, but he will be on the after party of the episode and be hopefully going into this more with Keisha, who I can't stand. She makes my eye twitch. But he'll be sitting down with Keisha next week to explain the situation. So I hope that you guys are all, again, tuning in, watching it, because I think from here now, everyone's going to find out if that text was indeed for Madison. I mean, I don't know if it was for one of the Tinder girls or not that he ends up trying to say, but, or if it was for Madison. But again, we know how iPhones work. We know how phones work. Madison would have been right above Michelle. Potentially, he had maybe saved them both as MAFS, Michelle, MAFS, Madison. Because if this guy has a list of Tinder Rolodex in his phone, maybe there are other Madisons and Michelles in his phone. So maybe he put MAFS in front of both of them, and that's how he ended up texting Madison in front of Michelle. Oh, and a very quick thing that we didn't touch on is the fact that when he sent the drunk text, he was out with Madison and Alan. He was like three-wheeling on their date. Maybe it was supposed to be a double date and Michelle canceled. I don't know. He was with Madison earlier in the night. So Madison's hands are also dirty in this. We can't blame this all on David. So I can't wait to see how she handles this. Alan, we know, punches a freaking wall later at the couples retreat. So that's in the mid-season trailer. So stay tuned. We're going to take a break here and we'll be back to break down my top 5. Welcome back to Bella Talks TV, everybody. I didn't get to show much of my little angel princess that's here with us today. Candy, the co-host, on the mic. Actually, no, she be snoring. She be snoring. Welcome back. Let's get right into my top 5. Again, we are 52 minutes into this episode and your girl hasn't even gotten to the top 5 countdown yet. So maybe this will be a 2-parter this week. Let's get right into it. So my number 5 most talked about moment of the week is going to be over in Beverly Hills. We've got Little Miss Kyle Richards, Little Miss Beverly Hills, storming out of a scene. She is disengaging. She is giving her best Meredith marks of this. And I don't think we've ever seen Kyle. Well, I don't think we can say that. I mean, after 13, 14, 15 episodes or whatever, I think that we've seen Kyle storm out of some other situations, but never like this. Never because she was truly, I mean, she calls it an ambush. And she said she hasn't even watched this latest episode, which I think it should be legally required for the housewives to watch their own episodes and reflect so they can be ready for the reunion. I mean, this is pissing me off and it's already making me think that she's going to quit. There are potential rumors of her leaving after this season. And also that she's not going to come to the reunion. Is she going to pull an LVP and not show up to the reunion this year? Because we know that the only reason Kathy's back on this season is to be Kyle's ally, because it's very clear that she didn't really have a lot of friends this season besides Erica, who we also see in the most recent episodes starting to finally realize like she cannot ride the fence. She is not Karen Huger. Okay. She is not the fence. Like she has got to not pick a side, but she's got to start acknowledging that Kyle's behavior is wackadoodle and we can't be having this going on in our housewives. You can't be just gaslighting everybody, Kyle. You can't just be pretending that you've done nothing wrong and pray that the editors are going to have your back and that they're going to hopefully like pull old clips of Dorit or something to like corroborate your story, or that they're going to constantly talk about the text, which again is the root cause. All of this stems from last year's reunion when Dorit shared the text that Kyle sent her to silence her before the reunion to Erica, and showing the personal text on camera, basically exposing Kyle for being a manipulator and having the ability to, get people to not bring things up on camera because she's the queen of Beverly Hills. She's the queen of the show. She's the OG. She's the fan favorite. She is the one that everybody rides or dies for. I mean, her fan base is getting very Teresa-y. It's like, hello, can we just all admit that she's like not having a good season? We don't have to hate her. We don't have to cancel her. I would like her to come back next season and redeem herself. I would like her to fix these relationships. But she's not able to do it because she's not able to admit that she has any fault in this, which is a major flaw. That is a major flaw. We all make mistakes. We all have misjudgments. Just because Dorit did show the text, and that was maybe an invasion of her privacy, yes, does not mean that it negates everything that she's done since then, which has been actually the exact same behavior that she has been doing. And it looks like Kyle has been in therapy and she learned what projection was and she made it her entire storyline this year. Like, she keeps talking about Dorit had to go dig something up to corroborate her story. Dorit's really getting off on this, knowing that that's how you feel, Kyle. You're using Dorit as the board that you're projecting your personal feelings off of. And usually in the past, every single season, the producers have had her back, right? Like, this is our girl. This is why people tune in. Like, the Kyle and Mo were the golden couple of Bravo before Craig and Paige. And I think what we're learning now is that nobody's perfect, right? We can't really stand, like, the stan culture is very flawed also. And I'm the first one to say, like, I stan somebody. My most recent stan was Sally from Southern Jar because it's like, okay, I use that playfully and in the moment. Like, I really am not like a stan in the sense that if this person does something problematic and totally wrong, that I'm still going to defend them. Unless they're Tamra. Tamra's the one person I stand for. But there's still things too that if she were to do, I would totally not be able to handle. It would, let's just say there's always going to be something that is potentially going to get me to unstan, revoke my stan card. But Kyle, I mean, between the rumors of quitting and just her feeling that, I mean, I'm really interested to see how the rest of the show plays out because it looks like we have Sutton now saying, I will not bow down to the altar of Kyle Richards. We have Dorit going over to Garcelle during the massage and burying the hatchet, taking accountability. I mean, Garcelle now is warming up to Team Dorit, which I never thought we would see. But this is the perfect example of what Kyle could have done. Garcelle was dead ass wrong. Garcelle tried it. She tried it. She tried to get us for 3 seasons to hate Dorit, and she's like the most loved fan favorite now. She's walking it back slowly. She didn't just all of a sudden wake up one day and be like, okay, now I'm on Dorit's team. But she is aware of the public perception, and she is aware that, okay, if I go for a 4th season trying to quadruple down on these claims that I've made about her that are not substantiated and have been debunked and have, especially by the new founding Dorit and Boz of it all. I mean, I think we all know she's not a dummy. And she's not just taken for a woman. And she has not been, I mean, it really is her successes and her intelligence that is like, you can't play this like manipulation game with her. It's like, she's clearly somebody who is like not to be fucked with. She is somebody who has integrity and that people trust as a reliable narrator. So the fact that Bose is having Dorit's back and is truly still her bestie, as we saw on Watch What Happens Live. They're in New York together. It's Bose's birthday. I mean, this is an off-camera relationship. This is not something that was just curated for the show or to film with, or that producers put them together, or she was brought on to be Dorit's ally. I mean, none of this. Dorit and Bose met that first episode and they had a genuine connection, and they're still friends today, and they really have each other's backs. especially when Dorit really needed a friend. I mean, they've really connected. And I think that it's genuine. It's giving very Angie and Mary from Salt Lake City, which I'm loving too. And we'll talk about them a little bit later also. But I'm obsessed with this friendship. I'm really getting like totally genuine vibes from Dorit. I never thought that Dorit was racist. And as you guys know, I was fighting for my life in the comments last year, trying to get people to realize that just because, I mean, I don't condone ever making remarks like Ike on Married at First Sight, Kichi, saying MM is aggressive just because she wants to have, you know, whatever. We cannot get back into that. I do not have the bandwidth today. But it's not to discount Garcelle's feelings about what Dorit said. I think Dorit, that day, what happened and where all these like racist comments started with her was that when it came to Garcelle, Dorit and her had not been getting along. Garcelle did not like her. I think Garcelle came onto the show knowing that, you know, whatever, we don't, again, I cannot like relitigate previous Beverly Hills right now, but I think that Garcelle came on and, you know, her and Dorit for whatever did not really like each other. And then when Dorit in the group that day, I think they were at, I'm not sure where they were that day, that they had that group where they were all sitting there. And Dorit's words were, Garcelle, you keep attacking me. And the word attack triggered Garcelle, just like the word aggressive, just like the, you know, there are words that you really shouldn't use when you are speaking to a woman of color, a person of color, because if the shoe doesn't fit, that is a very wrong remark, and you're painting them out to be a stereotype, and you're perpetuating these narratives about people of color. I understand that. But Garcelle was little jabs, was jabbing at Dorit. So yeah, attack was not the right word. It was insensitive, but there is no way that you can just now say that this woman is racist because she uses the word attack when you actually were kind of attacking her. So it was insensitive and it was not the right word, but I think now finally after all these seasons, we're seeing it be dropped. Like seeing Garcelle and Dorit sitting down there in that little moment, kind of deciding to bury the hatchet and be like, okay, we're going to both move forward going forward. Now Garcelle is like a free agent. She doesn't have to hate Dorit. Between Sutton's experiences with Kyle and now Dorit's experiences with Kyle and a lot of these other women, which I saw somebody on TikTok, I should be able to credit her here. I apologize. But she was talking about how Kyle also has a history of not believing women when they say that they've been abused and talking about it and taking it out of context and believing the man. We're starting to see some very serious problematic behaviors coming from Kyle, and she's really being exposed. And I think a lot of this stuff has been going on for a long time, but because she was the favorite, the producers were protecting her, and they're done protecting her. Like, it seems like now we've gotten to a place with Bravo producers, especially, where everybody's equal. We're exposed. We're mentioning it all. Like, no, the OGs are not protected in the way that they used to be. Like, Teresa's still getting a little bit of that favoritism, but because of the fact that they're not just like up Teresa's ass, re-signing, getting her back to be the OG, I think we're kind of seeing like the end of the OG era. I think that we're going to probably be to a point where we have none of the OGs left on any of these shows. It's maybe for the better because it's like a power dynamic that is not working anymore for the housewives. So I'm really, really enjoying the fact that Bose came in. Maybe she didn't watch any of the previous seasons. Maybe she wasn't aware of the fact that Dorit had these like racially charged claims against her. But good. She didn't come in with a preconceived bias, and she really gave her a chance to get to know her without any of that. And look at them. Like, it really shows that you should always make your own judgments about people and give them a chance to show them who they really are based going on rumors and etc. And not just choosing the A team. Not just being part of like the popular crowd. Not the popular crowd isn't always the right crowd, you know, just because a lot of people, there are a lot of racist people in America. Okay. They want to do that. And there's also a lot of people who are performatively, you know, justice warriors, keyboard warriors that are out there just wanting to attack racists. It goes both ways. So I personally hope Kyle does leave after this. I would love for her to not come to the reunion. I want to see her take accountability, but that would just be such a nail in the coffin. Like, what a disrespect to the Housewives fans to go out after all of these seasons and not show up to the reunion. I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you think she's going to show up? It's really going to be dependent on how the next few episodes start to play out. Because like I said, even Erica now is being basically forced to consider the fact that Kyle's not right. Shocker. So, okay, that was my number 5 most talked about moment of the week. Let's move on to number 4. Oh, little Candy snores. My baby. Okay, moving on to my number 4 most talked about moment of the week. We're going to be heading down to Charleston. Let's get into some Southern drama. So the biggest debate of the week has been Craig versus Austin. And what is going on with Craig? Like, I am so conflicted by Craig right now because I kind of am taking his side in the Paige and Craig breakup. And because all signs point to Paige, I mean, I made jokes about it being like a pro move about moving on before the breakup is over. But unfortunately, I think that there's a potential that while physical cheating might not have occurred, I think that she may have emotionally been DM cheating, Instagram cheating with Joe D'Amelio, the rumored man that she was at the Eagles game with. The girl that the ex-fiance of Rachel has been now saying that Paige has been doing some not so women supporting women activity. And there's been just, some light confirmation basically that Paige could potentially have cheated on Craig. So I have to continue to say, like, I unfollowed Giggly Squad, you guys. I have not been listening. I do not like her in her single era. She's giving me the ick. She keeps talking about how, like, yeah, I move like a man. It's like Giggly Squad is literally built on hating men. And now you're going to try to say that you're like the male, like you're a man, like you act like a man. These are the behaviors that you used to roast. These are the things that you used to not like take a stand for. These are the things that you used to complain about. And now you're acting like it and glorifying it and making it seem like it's okay if you do it. One thing that I think, I don't really know for sure, and this is coming from somebody who has a psychology. I also have a bachelor's in psychology. I double majored, you guys. So I have a bachelor's in religion and I have a bachelor's in psychology. Putting my little psychology hat on. It's like, you don't have to be born a narcissist. Sometimes narcissism is triggered by events that happen in our lives. It's a change in personality over things that happen, and I think that Paige was somebody who wasn't necessarily narcissistic in the beginning, but now through her fame, having sold out arenas of Radio City, screaming her name, people being obsessed with her, all of the money that she's getting, all of the fandom of Bravo kissing her ass for the last 7 years or whatever. I think that there's a possibility, and I kind of feel this way about Kyle Richards also. Like, I don't think that she was born and brought into the show as a narcissist, but now as this fandom and this standship has created an inflated sense of ego, that they're kind of like mini narcissists. I don't want to like diagnose them as that, but they're just giving like narcissist behavior now where they feel untouchable, where they feel like they don't have consequences for their actions, where they feel like, okay, it's okay if I do it, but it's not okay if other people do it. Like, these are things that start to make you wonder. And Paige is really giving me like a lot of that as of recent. I'm just not feeling it, Paige. So I decided to bow out of that. I can't really like listen to her anymore. It's a lot. I won't again talk about the Toast Girls, but Claudia and Jackie Oshry, they are the same. They also give this air about them of like, we're untouchable, we're uncancelable, we can say whatever we want and have no consequences. Like, we're above it, we have money, we're, it's just not right? It's just not right how you should be treating people, talking about people, etc. But I do have to say that in the Craig versus Austin, he's dead ass wrong. And I never thought that I would ever be on Austin's side pretty much about anything. But I have to be team Austin in this, which is insane because the math isn't mathing for me on this. And this has a little bit to do with Paige as well. So when you're in a relationship, of course, like anybody, your partner is usually your source of confidence, your source of support, your source of advice. And it's very clear that Craig held Paige in a very high regard, right? Like, he was obsessed with her. He thought that she was so smart, so funny, so talented, so well-liked, all of us fashionable, gorgeous. She's obviously very skinny and attractive. These are some things that he obviously really valued, and, who does things that you look for in a partner. And it was clear that he was trying to put a ring on it for a long time. And in the end, Paige ultimately decided, no, like, I'm not going to be with him. I think that's because Joe came into the picture and it was a better fit for her. But throughout this season, we're seeing this narrative playing out that Austin A wants a drinking buddy. B, Austin misses his friend that he can go out and party with and get girls with and etc. Austin is trying to blame Paige. Like Paige herself said last week, Austin's foaming at the mouth to blame me for the problems between you guys. And sometimes the truth is in plain sight. Sometimes we tell on ourselves a little bit. And I think that Paige has been telling Craig, Austin's not a good look. He's bringing your brand down, especially if Craig is voicing problems he's having with doing the podcast. As we know, last week, he also said Austin is Xannied out often, which a lot of times people, if they're hungover, will use Xanax to, you know, go into like that chill mode and come down, if you will, if he's using other uppers at night and then using downers the next day. This is the cycle that Craig is aware of because he did it himself for many years. So I don't think that that is necessarily inaccurate and a lie, but I think for him to expose these things on camera, to basically paint Austin out, you know, to be the problem. And especially one thing that's not adding up for me is that Austin is in a happy relationship with Audrey that we saw on camera last week that he's still currently with. And this whole idea that Craig's trying to say that Austin just wants like a party buddy or whatever, or like a guy to go out with and get girls with, it's like, you could have maybe said that about Shep, but I don't think you can really use that argument against Austin because he's in a relationship. He's not trying to go out and get girls unless he is cheating on Audrey, which Craig hasn't said, I don't think. I'm getting like real vibes. I don't think that Austin and Audrey are going to stay together or anything. I think this is just the first time, like he said, this is like his first non-toxic relationship. And I think the boys have all learned this season, like they're all in relationships this season, right? Like nobody's single except for Whitney. And I've been a previous like Whitney, you know, apologist, but the comments against Molly this season obviously are disgusting, and I don't condone that, and I will no longer be, you know, supporting Whitney. So see how that works, guys. I'm not gonna like stan Whitney when he clearly he clearly has been saying some dumb shit about Molly's weight and putting her down, making her insecure, which is sad because she really had a crush on him. But I actually really think that Molly and Shep, that little scene that they had last week where Molly's walking the dog and Shep pulls the car over, and then they're talking about like the Nutcracker in classical music because she plays the miniature tuba in the community band. That was a moment to me that was so genuine and authentic where they were like really connecting. And I actually would like to ship them. I would like to see them together. I think that there's something there. She's also age appropriate. She's 36. And we know that Shep's current girlfriend on the show, the Sienna girl from Bahamas, was just a clout chaser and ends up breaking up with him. So they haven't broken up yet in the show yet, but we know that that's coming because they're not together anymore. I don't know. Austin and Audrey have stood the test of time, though. They're still together. And so to me, this like narrative doesn't fit. Now, when it comes to the pillows and beer situation, this is a specific thing that I'm talking about where I think that this was Paige's fault. We see on camera Paige saying like, why would you want to continue to podcast with him when he's obviously a source of frustration for you? And why don't you just do the podcast on your own and name it Craig and Friends or something? So this is a seed that was planted from Paige. This wasn't something that Craig came up with on his own. He didn't go to Paige and say, hey, I'm thinking about absolving pillows and beer and just starting my own podcast. He just said, hey, I'm having some trouble with Austin. Basically, give me advice on like, you know, do you and Hannah ever go through this? Do you and Hannah ever like disagree or kind of have like maybe weeks where you don't feel like doing the podcast together? And like, how do you deal with that? No, her response is get rid of him, fire him, get him out of here and just do your own thing. I guess it's not for me to say if that was right or wrong, but personally, I guess, I mean, wait, it is because this is my podcast that, yeah, I think that was fucked up. I think that she is driving a wedge in between Austin and Craig. I think that she is planting seeds of doubt in Craig that I don't need friends like this. I would rather just be with my girlfriend all the time. I need to be putting all my eggs in the basket of the future. I need to be cutting ties with all these people that bring my brand down, because Sewing Down South is the Martha Stewart, like he's the male Martha Stewart, and he needs to be not having certain conversations on pillows and beer that might be derailing. You know, I think that she's kind of trying to get him to go like the Jason Tartick vibe, which is, okay, you're a reality TV star, but have a podcast about something with some substance. Like he talks about financial stuff. He has reality stars to be on to talk about like their financial planning and status and how they kind of have made their money and kept their money and things they invest in. And it's a very interesting format. I don't like Jason Tartick. I don't like Caitlin Bristow either. Team Tasha forever. I just really think that there is some truth to that. I do think Paige has been the wedge in between Austin. And as we can see now that Craig and Paige are not together anymore, Craig's he just opened another bar with Austin. Now they own 2 bars together. I mean, Pillows and Beer. We haven't done a little live Bella Talks TV thing. I've never listened to Pillows and Beer. Shocking, I know. I actually listened to all of the podcasts. I just wanted to see the last time these jokers put out an episode. Okay, shows Pillows and Beer. Okay, so they put out episodes. What is this? Is this like a series? Okay. To me, from what I can gather, they have been still recording Pillows and Beer every week. It was never dissolved. It was never turned into Craig and Friends. And I'm sure we're going to see next week, maybe Austin, because we ended the episode with Craig asking Austin, like, hey, will you give me the rights and like turn over the podcast to me? And Austin basically doesn't really get a chance to fully respond because of the end of the episode. So we're going to see tonight on Southern Charm, it is Thursday, what happens. What goes on with this, because it's clear, spoiler alert, that they don't dissolve and they're still in business together and they're continuing their friendship. And it looks like Paige's little plan didn't work. Craig's still friends with all the Southern Charm guys. In a way, he still chose Southern Charm, and he didn't just fully commit to Paige. And maybe that was something that contributed to them breaking up. Her being like, okay, you never really did do what I said to do with Austin. Maybe she's getting... of course, like when you're dating somebody and their friends don't like you, that hurts. That sucks. Nobody wants to be dating somebody and all of their friends don't like you. And I'm kind of getting the vibe that a lot of people don't like Paige and that they don't like the effect that she's had on Craig, especially these guys that have been, even though maybe the guys have been harder, right? Like things that Shep have said, the things that Austin have said, especially the things that Whitney have said about Craig. Everybody's been roasting Craig for 10 years on this show. So I think that it was okay for Paige to say it, but it's not okay for other people to say it. And there's obviously some discrepancy here. And I am dying to watch the new season of Summer House, where this is going to continue to unfold, obviously, over the summer. But I don't know. Those are just my thoughts about the Craig and Austin of it all and the Paige of it all and the continuing developing story of this. We're going to have to wait and see what else happens. But that's kind of what I'm thinking right now. Okay, so let's move on to my number 3 most talked about moment of the week. And we're going to get into some Traitors talk, moving into the castle murder and treachery of the Traitors. I've been talking about how I've gotten my husband into this, you guys. The man who has barely watched any reality TV. About a year ago, he said to me, okay, you are clearly obsessed with all of this shit. Please enlighten me. Who is the best reality TV star? Who is somebody that I think would be funny? And so we started with him. We lightly dipped his toes into the water of reality TV with some YouTube videos of compilations of housewife moments. So we started with some of the funniest housewife moments so that he could get introduced to some of the biggest, OGs and players over our times. And then we also did reunion moments so that he could see Andy and the reunions. He was very, curious about how the reunions and how basically just how Housewives works. And what we learned out of this is that he really loves Dorinda. Dorinda is his favorite. He thinks that she's the funniest. He thinks that she's absolutely absurd. And I actually got him to watch the Real Housewives Ultimate Girls Trip, the RHONY trip. And we watched, I think it was only 6 episodes, but I got him to watch all 6 episodes. He really, towards the end, was really bored by it and didn't really like it as much, but he still has always loved Dorinda. And he loves Luann. He loves Nene. He thinks that Nene's clips were obviously so funny. He will actually quote some things to me sometimes. Sometimes he'll be like, bling, bling. When Nene was with the watch and was like, bling, 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 bling. When she gets the watch and she's like, things are getting weird. I mean, I'm not the biggest Nene fan, but that is an iconic scene. But okay, so they announced Traitors, and obviously Dorinda's on Traitors. I'm like, this is perfect. Like, I can finally get him to watch Traitors now because he's obsessed with Dorinda. And he's going to want to see how this goes. Now, as we all know, not really a spoiler alert anymore, that Dorinda was the first one eliminated and murdered, which again, we're all grieving and mourning. But I think that she's going to do a Kate Chastain, where, remember, Kate was out. Yeah, they brought her back the next season and she ended up going to the finale. I think they're going to bring Dorinda back next season. She'll end up being a traitor, and we'll have to see how that plays out. Or maybe she'll be a faithful again. I just think that she will be in season 4 somehow, some way. And I just think that it's so great that he's getting into it with me. There's going to be a new episode tonight, and we're going to have to see how this plays out. But beyond the Dorinda of it all, everybody is talking about Boston Rob and Bob the Drag Queen and the recent elimination, because this is only the 3rd season, and I have never watched any of the iterations of the UK or the Australian version. I don't know if I think I've told you guys this before, that like, I don't do well with listening to accents. Yes, even with subtitles, I obviously am able to like have a better crack at it, but I'm almost like dyslexic when it comes to people that have like very thick accents, and like I have a hard time watching other shows. That's why I never got into like Love Island. Like I don't know. I just have a hard time like processing and watching like hours of TV that are in like basically a different language to me. So there's something about, that has made me not get into it. But with Traitors US came onto the market, I was eating that shit up. Like, this is the best show ever. And season 1, incredible. I thought season 1 was so good, how they had a mixture of reality TV stars with real people. But then obviously the best part about that show, because the other ones are just regular people. There's no celebrities on them. And then the US version, they were like, okay, let's toy with the idea of like getting a couple like celebrities mixed in with these people. And then that did so well that then season 2 was all celebrities. And then season 3, again, all reality TV stars / celebrities. Because Sam Asghari, Britney's ex, that's not a reality TV star. Ivar, he's not a reality TV star. He's royalty. So not everybody is a reality TV star. Now they are, because they're on the show. But Bob the Drag Queen came in, and he says himself to avenge Peppermint, who was the first one who was eliminated in season 2, because Trishelle of Real World fame, who ended up going on to win the show with CT and ice out MJ, which MJ is still salty to this day. She still does interviews where she thinks that she was totally cheated and cannot understand why she was taken out in the last episode and did not get to leave with any of the prize money. She still is grieving this and going on about it, which I think is great. It's like, this girl knows how to hold a grudge. If you're a Shaw's person, you know what went on with Baby Shams. So I think it's crazy that MJ is still like salty about this. But we now have Bob the Drag Queen on here avenging Peppermint. He's there. He's been made a traitor. He's going to go all the way for the RuPaul Drag Queen community. And he really was like the favorite of the traitors. Like, we have Danielle, who's also a traitor, who I think is doing poorly. Everybody seems to be sussing her out. The dramatics are over the top. I wasn't a big Survivor, or Dorinda likes to call it Survivors. I'm not a big Survivors girl. So I wasn't aware of Danielle before, but I was aware of Boston Rob. I mean, some of these people are just like, the legacy is bigger than them. Even if you've never seen the show, you've heard of them. Probably how people who have never watched Housewives still know who Bethany is, still know who Nene is. Like, there are certain people that transcend the fandom. And Boston Rob comes in, and again, nobody brings him into the game in that first episode. Nobody shakes his hand, which I think was really insane. I think that somebody should have done that. I think that Chrishell should have went up, shook the hand, bought Boston Robin, and kicked Sandoval out. Like, wouldn't have that been iconic? Wouldn't that have been fucking amazing TV? And I know everybody is happy that Sandoval's still on Traitors because he's giving us some unintentional entertainment by him just being a freaking weirdo. But you know, he's still on the show, and I'm scared. I think a lot of, again, there are always spoilers online. You can always find things that people have leaked. There have been rumors that Tom does make it to the end and maybe doesn't necessarily win, but like, or if he's part of the Faithfuls and the Faithfuls win, that he's like part of the crew. So I don't know. I hope that's wrong. I don't really want to see him win shit. He's been on like several of these shows now that he's not been able to win. So, I just really don't want to see him on there. But wouldn't that have been so iconic? Like, that was such a missed opportunity for Chrishell to really, like, somebody should have done that. But the game players were too afraid to make a move on him. And the housewives / other, you know, reality TV stars, Summer House, whatever, the other Bravo Lebs, they didn't really understand who he was enough to bring him into the game. So I think that was just sad. That was really sad. That could have went so many other ways. But basically, Boston Rob finally decides to take his hit and take out Bob the drag queen this episode because everybody's onto him already. And in this sense, you know, I think Rob is smart enough to see like 10 steps down the road that like, okay, like we have an opportunity here to get a traitor out, which is one less person for him to share money with if he ends up even winning as a traitor, which I don't think he's going to. I think that he's there to make a splash. I feel like it's, you know, I don't know for sure about this, but again, I think that the producers are always giving us like little clues, and you have to pay attention to who's doing press and things like that. There are certain people that you don't see doing a single interview, that their Instagrams are dead. Like, those are sus to me. Those are people that probably go pretty far in the show. And then there are people that are kind of like running their mouth about stuff and posting videos from the castle and not being as like secretive about their experience, that I think probably get eliminated somewhere in the middle. The people that go to the end you don't see much of them at all online and whatever. Most recent episode of Watch What Happens Live, Parvati from last season and Boston Rob were the bartenders. Boston Rob is also on Deal or No Deal Island. There's just certain things that are making me think that Rob's also probably going to be out soon. So I think that because of his move, and we saw that last episode is onto him as well, and is like, yeah, Boston Rob, like he's got to be. Rob also kind of gave the Faithfuls a big help when he was like, okay, like, you know, he brings up the fact that it's got to be, right, one of the 3 guys that were brought in the cages, Derek, Wes, and Rob himself, has to be one of the traitors, right? Like, they say that, and they're like, oh my God, Wes is like, yeah, it's got to be one of them. He knows it's not him. He thinks it probably could potentially be Derek, but it's 1 out of 3 potential shot that you're going to get somebody out if you go for them. So I do think Rob will get a limit. Boston Rob will be out next. That's my official prediction. But we got Bob out, and Bob is taking it so well. He's doing the opposite of what MJ has done. He's been online being like, it was all gameplay, not taking it personally. This is part of the show. And he's moving on with his life. He's onto bigger and better things. He's by far one of the most famous drag queens that have came out of RuPaul's Drag Race and has been able to go on and make a whole career from being on the show. So yeah, I just really think that Traitors is doing so good this season, and I'm really into it, and I can't wait to see the new episode tonight. Okay, I just had to do a quick little text to the hubby there because small reality TV side note, if you're not watching the new season of Queer Eye, I mean, hello, like if you need your daily cry, oh yeah, I forgot, I was supposed to be doing like a daily cry segment. Go watch Queer Eye. Jeremiah Brent, he's Nate Berkus's, the interior designer. They're both interior designers. He is the new Bobby on the Fab Five. And I think he was a great addition. I'm loving the energy that he's bringing. And when I was at PetSmart the other day, they have a section of Nate and Jeremiah. Like, they are, as a couple, have created like this pet furniture. And when I tell you, like, it's like little like leather couches for iguanas to lay on. Like, it's for really small animals, like not even for dogs. Like rabbits and like mice. Like, it's living room furniture. It is incredible. And I'm saying that all because my husband just texted me because we're going to Vegas and I'm going to see the Piff the Magic Dragon magic show. who Piff is the Chihuahua, and I'm blinking on his real name now, but the guy in the dragon suit, he wears like the dragon onesie, the pajamas with like the dog, the Chihuahua, Piff. It's literally called Piff the Magic Dragon is the show. It's like one of the longest running magic shows in Vegas. And he won the Magician of the Year award. Like, I mean, hello, David Copperfield, David Blaine, like now Piff is in it. And he just texted me to tell me we got tickets to go see that show on Tuesday. I'm very excited. Very, very excited. And it's also in the Flamingo, where Lisa Vanderpump's new restaurant just opened. And it is called Pinky's, and I'm going to be going there too. So I'm going to be going to Pinky's and then going to Piff on Tuesday. So I can't wait to come back and tell you guys about Lisa Vanderpump's new restaurant. So, okay, let's move into my number 2 most talked about moment of the week. We're going to have to talk about the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City finale / reunion too, because I didn't really get to talk about the finale that much. But the reunion was last night, part 1, and I have some thoughts on that as well. So let's go back to Puerto Vallarta in our minds, and we are at Vidanta World, and we are sitting at the table, and everybody's got their phones out, and everybody's reading these awful texts to each other. And again, another iconic ending to the show, but this was obviously just really produced, and that's okay. Like, we need production to be doing their job, right? We don't want to see storylines that are not going anywhere. We don't want to see people hiding things off of camera. We don't want things like, we need there to be drama. We need there to be resolution. We need there to be conversations happening. And the producers this season, what I'm starting to really learn in the breaking of the fourth wall is that the producers are basically in like daily contact with the women, and certain producers are assigned to certain women on the shows. And maybe everybody has their one producer. I'm not 100% sure how it works. If there's like, everyone has like multiple producers, but it could be potentially that each housewife has like their own producer, and they text with them a lot about things that are going on in their life or new developments or current, like, hey, air your grievances to me today. Like, who are you annoyed with today? And there's a lot of texting that goes on back and forth with the producers and the housewives. And so this whole thing orchestrated by Heather, we know Heather was not a very big presence in this season, right? She didn't get to go to Palm Springs because Bronwyn disinvited her. She is single, which again, I know this is one of my most controversial takes, but I don't like my housewives to be single because that usually means that it's like, what, unless they're really messy in the personal drama of everyone else. I don't know. There's just something about like, if you're going to come for everyone else's marriages and we can't turn it back on you, I mean, it's just like a little bit of like an unfairness. And I think that Heather was kind of just like not as much in the fray and in the mix this season. I also think that she has been such a center snowflake for a few years that we are going to get burned out on her. And I also know that she was like writing her book, and she's got other things. She's obviously got Beauty Lab and Laser. Like, she's one of the few people that has like a lot going on outside of the show. I don't know. She just seemed like really kind of like disengaged this season, or she seemed like Mary kind of put it, like up her own ass about her own successes, and kind of like one of these people again who maybe wasn't narcissistic in the beginning, but is now starting to show us these like narcissistic personality traits of like being in their own world and not understanding that they're part of like a group or an ensemble. I don't know. Heather did not have her best season. So we're at this, but we know that she's a producer's pet, right? There's got to be somebody, Lisa Rinna, Bethany. There's certain people where if the producer goes to them and is like, hey, or they tell their producer, right? Like, hey, I'm having this like thought, or I'm having this like issue. The producer's like, well, you got to bring it up on camera. Why are you telling me? Bring it up, confront her, like get this on camera. And so there's definitely an air of that with Heather. Like, she seems to be the one that's basically willing to do whatever production asks her to be able to move storyline. If people aren't bringing things up on camera that need to be said, Heather's going to bring it up. We had the huge finale with Monica, and now we have this huge finale where Heather seemingly is the one that's bringing all these pieces of the puzzle together. And it seems like the producers, what I'm gathering, have been receiving, like, they received these texts all season, right? And I think that they came up with this idea of like, okay, we need to have like a huge like banger of a finale. Last season ended for them on a trip, if you guys remember. And so they're like, hey, let's not mess with the formula. Let's also end this season on a trip with an explosive dinner where we're exposing things. You know, like lightning can strike twice, and it did. So they have this idea, and it's supposed to be, let's read our meanest texts that we've sent to each other. And I believe it was the producers had the idea of like, I'm going to have them read the meanest text they've ever sent to me. So I think that these were texts that were sent to producers, and that they're potential things that could be part of storyline, that could be brought up on camera, that people in the community are aware of, but like hasn't been like brought into the show yet. All part of the makings of these housewife shows. And I believe that, you know, these were things that were said to them, and then they have to go around the room and read them. And I'm kind of into it, right? Like everybody's kind of into it. It's a little invasive, and it's definitely mean girl behavior. But we are getting to pull back like what the real opinions are of each other. Like if Erica had to read the meanest text she's ever said about Kyle on camera, that would be appointment television, because it's getting rid of these fake alliances. It's getting rid of these narratives that people like to bring onto the show and hide, you know, these stories that maybe were buried, that were never brought up all season, that they tried to like get people to bring up. It's like, all right, let's just throw it all at the wall tonight and see what sticks. And a couple of things stuck. One big thing that stuck was Angie K's text. Now, Angie K's text is about Bronwyn. And I don't know if I have it to read it. I think you guys all know by now, of course. But it's something along the lines of, you know, these are like the dramatic readings that Andy does on like Clubhouse Playhouse. But pretty much it goes on to say like Bronwyn's face, her ears are like stitched down to her face so tight. I mean, she was pumped full of filler last night on Watch What Happens Live. So it's clear like everybody gets like that second season glow up, and everybody gets plastic surgery. So it's really no shade. Oh, by the way, this is like a quick plug for that. If you guys were following me on my Instagram, I got like that wand that Kyle Richards said that gets rid of your pores. And like, look how I only use it twice already. And it's supposed to be results after one use. Look at my face. Look at my face. It is glowing. It is doing, if you're on YouTube, if you are just an audio listener, you don't get to see how small my pores are already. But I mean, it's looking great. I'm a believer so far. So that's one thing I can say about Kyle. She's a good influencer. But she reads this text that Angie said, and Angie is a Scorpio. And I am a Cancer sun. I am a Taurus moon. And I am a Scorpio rising. And that is when the tongue cuts. Like, I am sweet as pie. I am Susie Homemaker. I am, all my life I've been told, you're so positive, you're so bubbly, you're such a light. Like, I've always heard, I definitely shine like a Cancer sun. Like I do. And I appreciate that side of me. You cross me, it's going down. Because I am very intuitive, and I'm also very observational. And so even though I haven't said things that I've seen, I remember everything. And if you do cross me, like I will totally come for you. And it's not like I'm not like praising it necessarily, but I just see that in Angie. Angie is somebody who also, like, you know, it's like fun. It's all fun and games, but like I will cut you. And she ends up saying, yeah, Bronwyn's plastic surgery is basically like botched, and or like her face be looking crazy. And then she goes on to say, I really appreciate her business plan, though. I would prefer to be self-made. As we know, Angie and her husband own like 17 hair salons or something, or like hair schools, like crazy. Sean, that's my guy. But she goes on to say, like, I really appreciate her business plan. I'd rather be self-made. But marrying a man that's got 1 foot in the grave and 1 foot on a banana peel, I mean, I think you could have heard a pin drop at that table after that. I mean, it was just the preciseness and the cuttingness and the specificity of the diss that really blew everybody's mind. Like, damn, we didn't even know Angie could like get deep like that. Like it's different than being like, oh, your mama, like Heavenly on Married to Medicine when she gets in the fights with the women and she'll be like, yo mama. Like, no, that is not like having that like quick-witted way to like come back and battle in these moments. So it's really crazy to me that this has really happened. Like I just could not believe she said that, but like also like I am of course team Angie. Now, okay, let me just say things. Bronwyn, I love her sense of style. I love her individuality. I love her uniqueness. I love that she's like not your average bear, again, to say that again. I'm really like, I'm into it, and I am obsessed with just, I don't know how she kind of like owns that part of her. Now, I don't really think that there's any shame in the game of her marriage, because I actually do believe that she does love Todd. I know it's really hard for people to see. I talked a lot about my husband's kind of the same way, right? He can also be kind of like, what is this bullshit? He can also be like, oh, women. Like, it's not great. It's not great. It can be slightly misogynistic undertones, right? Like, we don't like to see that behavior. But I also think we would be silly to think that like every man is like Justin Baldoni and is like some feminist and is going to like totally understand like the workings of women. Women are from Mars, or what is it? Men are from Mars, women are from Venus. Like, we cannot believe that we are like the same. We don't think the same way. And I think that that's okay. We can't pretend that we do. And it's more to just be aware of it and acknowledge it. So the fact that it really, really just comes all out onto the table, right? Like putting it all onto the table, literally. The dig about Angie, or the dig that Angie gave about Bronwyn, sad, mean, but they were on the same side of the couch at the reunion. It makes me think that they have at least been able to patch things up. And the point of it was to say these things and burn it, right? Like, hey, I said this shit about you, but I want to move forward with you. And I actually do think Angie's capable of that. And I think Bronwyn is going to need friends next season. So I can foresee an Angie Bronwyn friendship coming next season. Obviously, the best possible friendship that has came out of this so far has been Mary. Now, Mary and Angie, they're newfound besties. Everybody loves their relationship. And I really do too. I think it's genuine. And like Angie said, Mary changed her life. Mary showed her a way of looking and viewing people in a different sense. Like, she really has shown her a different way of friendship, a different way to be a friend, a different part of like friendship showing up and showing you that you can't really judge a book by its cover, and giving people the opportunity to warm up to you. Mary takes a long time. Like, she is not a first impressions girl. She's somebody you have to be around for maybe, a handful of times, if not more, to really start to like understand how she works and how she thinks. I have been very critical of Mary in the past. And even going into this most recent season, I wasn't prepared to be a Mary fan. I think that, again, if you guys know about the religious stuff, like, I think what she does at her church is absolutely disgusting. Or I should say did at her church, because I do believe the church is closed now. So the previous behavior of the church, the videos that came out of her, that would be her manipulating her, her church goers, what are they called? Patrons, parishioners, the people that attended her church. She would get them to donate money. She would yell at them if they didn't. She would use like these like aggressive tactics. Which, again, see, I use the word aggressive, and it's Mary. This is not like a racist thing. Like, she was being aggressive. She was being very intimidating and very, just not good to her followers at her church. And this all got exposed, and a lot of the inner workings of the church, yes, went down. And Robert Sr. quit the show, and he refuses to film. And there's just a lot of darkness surrounding Mary and the church. Now, everything that happened with Robert Sr., Robert Jr. this year, again, I have total sadness and empathy for as a mother. I feel bad for Mary that she's thinking like, I sheltered my son too much, or maybe like, she's blaming, I think she blamed herself for not being a better mother. And that's very heartbreaking. That makes me very sad, because I do think she tried to give Robert Jr. all the tools to be successful. Sounds like he was a straight A student, but sometimes drugs and addiction, it finds the people that you think it never will find. And I think that was the situation with that. But unfortunately for this, I still can't fully back little Robert Jr., because if you guys saw most recently, he went to his Instagram stories and was calling all of the women sluts. He said, everybody except for my mom, all the housewives of Salt Lake City except for my mother are sluts. I mean, this is just not behavior that, like, I can't feel sorry for a man that clearly hasn't learned, sober or not. I mean, that also wasn't really like sober behavior to me. I don't know if he's still, in rehab, if rehab worked, if he's using again. I don't want to like really speculate about all of that. But I'm just still not getting the best vibes from Mary in the Cosbys in general. There's still something there. I'm glad she was able to come back and be friends with Angie, and I do appreciate their friendship. I'm trying to keep that friendship separate of Mary as a person, but I didn't really even like the way that she was so quick to like dump Angie. She talks a lot about her abandonment issues. And this is something, again, that I'm really trying to open my heart and mind to. I know that I'm very critical of a lot of the people that I see, i.e. Lindsay Hubbard, who also struggles with these abandonment issues. And I'm just like, I cannot understand a single word coming out of your mouth sometimes. And that is, I have talked previously on the show about how my parents are still together. I'm very blessed to come from a family where my parents have been married for these many years and they've never shown me any version of abandonment. But it doesn't mean I don't have abandonment in my family. I want to be very clear. My mom was married before my dad, and I have an older half sister who's 7 years older than me that's from my mom's previous marriage. My mom's first husband abandoned my sister and moved and left and actually moved out to like North Dakota and left my mom in Michigan to raise my sister as a single mom. My mom didn't meet my dad till she was 7 when they got married, and then they had me. So I see my sister as Lindsay Hubbard, and it triggers me because my sister, can also be very harsh with me. She can hold me to some standards. If I don't come home for Christmas, I could get like berated. She finds that to be abandoning the family. I mean, these are things that like kind of trigger me personally. And I think that's why I get triggered by these people that exhibit these behaviors. So I just wanted to explain that a little bit about myself. That it's not that I don't have empathy and sympathy for the people that do have abandonment issues. I just have a different lens on it because I personally haven't gone through it. I know people that have been affected by it. And I just still would like to see people overcoming that. I know that you can't just like, okay, I'm done, I'm over it. Like not having a father or a mother or whatever abandonment you felt. But there's got to be the willingness to grow and learn and evolve from it. And I think a lot of people use that as their superpower. And that's like the vibe I always got from Lindsay was like, she used it as her excuse to treat people badly and her excuse to be wild and out in her relationships. And sure, that's fine for like a year. But if you watch yourself on TV for a year acting like that and you don't come back next season and you're like, I need to kind of like go to therapy and change my behavior, and you continue to condone it and amp it up and use it and weaponize it, that's where I have a problem. So that's kind of my problem with this, with Mary. Seems like she is actually of the latter where she's learning from it. She's wanting to change. She's admitting that it's not okay to project these abandonment issues onto her relationships. So we're going to have to see how Mary is at the rest of the reunion and how she acts next season, because I know she'll be back. I think as we heard rumors that everybody is coming back next season. So okay, let's move on to my number one most talked about moment. I really could talk about this stuff forever, you guys. I'm literally at 1:51 or an hour and 51 minutes into this episode, so it's clearly going to be a two-parter. But yeah, crazy amount of stuff for me to talk about this week. So let's move on to my number one most talked about moment. I'm sure you guys can tell by process of elimination what we're going to be talking about. Let's get into it. Trigger warning, we will be talking about Bryn's behavior in the season finale of The Real Housewives of New York. Now, again, a lot of people gave up on this show a long time ago. I've been rooting for people to stay in and stay tuned. And I think that's because it's just fair to see how the story plays out. I think even still watching the finale, I'm like, I could have done without this season. I don't think it like brought me anything to my life that I couldn't have lived without. I don't think that there were like any iconic moments that we're going to be discussing. I don't think there were any like funny memes that came from it. Like, I don't know, like, or like Jennifer Tilly would say, memes. I just don't think that it's like this season could have been an email type of situation. But I do think one very important lesson came out of this finale. We see the cameras go down and we see production step in. It's the whole breaking of the fourth wall. It's all of the Nest cameras that are set up. Nobody is mic'd. And it's everybody recounting what happened that night between Bryn and Ubah, which was eventually that had been building all season, which is the fact that Bryn has been fighting rumors and allegations that she's a sugar baby, that she sleeps with men that are married, she sleeps with men for money, she doesn't work or have her own situation. She's been painted out to be this girl that has been, I'm going to tread lightly. Again, I don't want to be insensitive, but she has been kind of painted out to like be this slut, right? Like, we can't really respect her or her opinion or what she says because she is sexually promiscuous or whatever. And the reason Another thing that adds to this is Bryn's hyper-sexualized baby voice, the way that she's constantly bringing up sexual acts and innuendos in all of her conversations, the way that she's always, I think, kissing everybody and wanting to like, I don't know, there's something going on there that I think is probably a product of her abandonment also, and her traumas that she's been put through with her rape and her sexual assault. So it's making sense to me. Like, it's like we're getting the inner workings of Bryn and maybe why she, like, is she somebody who leads with her sexuality because it's been taken from her and her autonomy was taken from her during this essay and some of these things. So I'm understanding where Bryn was coming from. The problem again was that Bryn was not able to see outside of herself and take the accountability that the way that she was acting was making people uncomfortable. It was coming off the wrong way. It wasn't cute. It wasn't funny. And it was getting weird. It's getting weird, right? So after 2 seasons of this, we've been seeing this like constant behavior from her. And it really just was putting a lot of question marks, like why? Like, why does it have to be this way? I mean, even down to that Central Park scene, and they had like those, I think it was because of Mel's engagement party that was going to be at like the sex museum, but they had those like penis-shaped suckers that she was sucking on and stuff. Like, there would just seem like any opportunity she got to like make it weird, she did. And then this all leads up to Uba. Now Bryn's been picking at Uba, right? Like, Uba, why are you here? Uba, why aren't you engaging? Uba, why aren't you talking? Like, she's been picking at Uba. And Uba went to what was a low blow and a low hanging fruit of like, you probably slept with somebody to get this job. She was provoked, but I don't condone that either. Like, Uba, you were handed on a platter the high road. You could have been like, Bryn, I'm not engaging with you. Oh, do you hear someone talking? I don't know. Like, you could have ignored her. You could have like totally played this differently. But unfortunately, like, this is what happens with manipulation and gaslighting and making people like go crazy. She pushed, poked, and Uba exploded. And then Bryn saw that as an opportunity for her to paint her as an aggressive Black woman and play a race card and kind of put that out there. And that was exposed almost in these little like moments that I don't think Bryn thought would ever get used in the show, because she thought she was a fan favorite. She thought she was protected like Kyle Richards. She thought like, okay, even if I say these little like remarks, they won't air them. Boy, was she wrong. And we pretty much just get to the head, you guys. We get to the exact moment where Bryn decides to weaponize the fact that she has been raped. And she sees that everybody is exhausted. Everybody is tired. People are kind of, 50 on the whole fight. And I think Bryn's like, okay, it's the end of the season. We know that she's been self-producing a lot. She's been trying to produce the other girls a lot. And I think she's just was like, okay, I'm gonna just tell the girls. Now, I'm having a hard time remembering if this was actually before they mic'd or after they mic'd. Because we saw everybody take their mics off and like go to bed that night. And then, okay, no, this is after they were all unmic'd. So Bryn did not think that this would ever make it to the show. It would be something that was said off camera, which again, this whole season was about pigeoning, right? Like, playing the game of telephone and taking things that were said off camera, bringing them and trying to like bring storylines to them. So this was not supposed to be the end of the season. Remember, there was supposed to be a whole nother day of filming the next day. That was going to be the finale. And I don't know if anything was planned for them to film when they got back from New York, but Bryn takes this opportunity off camera with the girls. Uba and Jessel are in her room and all of the other girls are together, and Bryn exposes to them that Uba is aware Bryn has been sexually assaulted, and the fact that she is accusing Bryn of basically being like almost a sexual assaulter herself, because she's pushing her sexuality on everybody all the time and talking about how she uses it as, a way to get ahead in the world, i.e. getting jobs, i.e. getting opportunities, whatever, that she tells the other girls this, and we see Raquel. Raquel is a very pivotal, reliable narrator of this also, because again, there are alliances in these shows. There's a very important part of the finale that show that part where Brynn and Aaron make an alliance to have each other's back that season. And it's clear that Aaron is the warrior soldier that is carrying out all of Brynn's like general orders. I still don't like Aaron, but I can at least forgive her in thinking that she was manipulated by Brynn. And they show that, okay, she's thinking, okay, if I tell them this, Aaron's going to have my back. Jenna's probably going to have my back, which means Raquel will have my back. And it's just clear that she thought she had like the majority of the group like to have her back. And the fact that she's telling them the story that Uba knew she was raped and that she was using it as a weapon. So the women are disgusted by this. Raquel's like, I can't even look at Uba. I can't even believe that she would do this and speak to Brynn this way when she knows what she's been through. So then everyone comes out of the room again. Everybody's in the hallway. We see these on the Nest cams. And we see that Uba, I'm going to turn the light on. Hold on. I know we're in the middle of this, but this episode has gone on so long that I'm literally in the dark now. The sun has set on me. But there's this scene, you know, this is all coming to head. And then the girls on the camera, it shows that Jessel is in the room with Uba, but they come out. And then the other girls tell Jessel, hey, you need to know that Uba is aware that Brynn's been essayed and she's not sticking up for her. She's not having her back, and she's treating her like shit, and she's speaking to her like this. So Jessel, thank God, Jessel is my MVP of the season. I love her. And I'm going to be sad if for some reason, I don't think they'll ever get rid of her, or not ever, but for next season, I mean, I think it's going to be Aaron coming back, Jessel. I think basically that Uba and Brynn will be out, and Rebecca Minkoff, who we also saw in that finale that I don't think anybody really likes her. Jessel immediately is like, something is not right. Like, you know, they're telling me this, but I was just with Uba, and like Uba's very upset too. And like, there's just no way. So Jessel goes back and tells Uba, and Uba obviously flips out. Like, she can't believe that this is being painted about her. She can't believe there's the audacity that Brynn has, and she totally like loses her mind. She's beside herself. She's throwing up that she's crying so much. She knows that the Housewives fans, the general public, it's going to be her word versus her, or, you know, Brynn versus Uba's words off of camera, because this was never filmed. And Brynn is so convincing and manipulative. Uba, I just think, saw her whole world crashing, her relationship ending. She said that, how am I going to explain this to Oliver that like I don't support like this was bad. Brynn was out to ruin Uba's life. This is Housewives. This is not the real life ruiners, okay? This is freaking Housewives. So it just went too far. It got way too dark. And thank God for Jessel, and thank God that all of this did end up getting exposed, because then we do see that Brynn goes home the next day. The other women stay with Uba, and they understand. Even Raquel is like, I am so mad at myself for automatically assuming that what Brynn told me was true, and like not having Uba's back and not seeing both sides, or being like, hey, there's got to be like, you know, truth, like we got to get like all the facts. It just shows you how important it is to like not believe everything that you're just told, not to like use stereotypes to make your opinions about people, not to just like take the road that's more traveled. Like, you can't just go with the popular crowd. You can't just go with the grain sometimes, because the grain can still be wrong. Popular opinion can still be wrong. So I just think that was just so beyond. I really cannot believe it. If Bravo decides to bring, I mean, I'm always saying like, don't ever quit Bravo, don't quit the shows. Like, we got to watch them all. I do have to say that if they do bring Brynn back, no matter how apologetic she is, no matter how much therapy she goes to, I will not watch the next season. I won't, because I think that would be sick to choose basically a pot stirring ratings girl that makes good TV over the integrity and the freaking respect of the other housewives. So that's just my word of warning to Bravo. You know, with all that being said, we got to end this episode, you guys. I've kept you here for 2 hours, but I do want to say I would like to see Julia Fox come on as a friend of. I think that she would be a great addition. She's friends with Jessel. We know that she's a Housewives super fan. I'm scared that she would try to produce too much, but I think that's why a friend of would be perfect via kind of Jennifer Tilly vibes for that. They also talked about Anna Delvey potentially being on the show. I don't think that's a good idea. I don't really want her on there, but Kelly Cutrone, who is Anna Delvey's roommate, I would love to see on RHONY. It would be perfect. She is fucking no BS. She calls it like she sees it via Katie Maloney. And with that being said, I want to end this with a brand new segment. I just want to say that I want to take out the trash at the end of this episode. We're going to be taking out the trash of some trash men every week. We're taking out the trash on Matt Jones of Sold on SLC this week. If you guys are not watching that show, I didn't get in there a lot this episode because not a lot of people are watching and talking about it. But please go watch. There are 6 episodes out now. It's on Peacock or it's on the streaming app, and Matt Jones is disgusting. He is a Mormon that is married to this woman, Nicole, who he has been cheating on for 10 years with strippers. He was a frequent of a club that he was obsessed with one of the girls that worked there. The sister of the stripper exposed him on camera. He attacks all of the women in the office. He treats everybody like trash. He is a gaslighter. He is a manipulator. He has the wool pulled over his wife's eyes. His wife is talking about how God, again, is washing away all of his sins, how it's very Ashley and Tyler. It is, again, another way of how religion in this world just keeps us protecting the men and keeps us in this misogynistic world that we live in. So this man is really pissing me off. So we got to take the trash out with him this week. Go check that show out. Go check out my TikTok. I just did a TikTok on him. And yeah, that was it, you guys. So thank you for being here with me this week. I love you all. And so yeah, that was it for this week, you guys. Please make sure you're leaving me a 5-star review, a rating. Give me something. Throw your girl a bone here. Please don't listen without rating and reviewing. And make sure that you are sharing all of my content and helping me get all of my efforts out there. I appreciate each and every one of you and have a great weekend. Love you, Ellas. Ciao.